This is Joe Head with the Etowah Valley Historical Society, and I'm downtown at the Bartow History Museum with Mr. Ed Carlton. About 2 years ago, we did a lecture at the library with Ed Carlton as the main speaker, and the topic was AO Granger. And some people might remember that AO Granger was a Civil War personality who ultimately settled here in Cartersville. And the lecture was very successful, and Mr. Carlton brought some artifacts that he displayed that day, and he's here today to make a contribution to Bartow County and the Bartow History Museum of these artifacts. Ed, would you tell us something about your relationship to AO Granger and who he is and the artifacts that you brought?
Well, AO Granger, Arthur Otis Granger, was my great-great-grandfather, and during the Civil War, he was actually General Sherman's personal secretary, and so he did a lot of the writing that Sherman did between the different generals and the president. But I grew up not even knowing I had Yankee relatives, which is kind of interesting. But in coming out here and telling the story of him and this home that he built with a huge telescope on one end and an overlook of Cartersville on the other end. He loved this town. They apparently camped on Granger Hill during the war, and he came back and bought that property and built his home there, and it's still there. But it was so huge that 18 rooms came off the back at some point during the home's lifetime, but so that it would be more of a regular home. But in dealing with Joe and the Etowah Valley Historical Society and meeting Trey and getting into the museum, I thought this would be a great place for AO Granger's Civil War sword. And he was just a private, but because of what his job was, he actually had a Union sword, and it's going to be in the museum here. And then one of the other things that I happen to have is AO Granger's daughter, my grandmother. She was raised with a lot of benefits, and so when she got married to William Albert Hanson from Mimosa Hall in Roswell, she had a really nice trousseau, and one of the trunks with that dress in it has been opened, and that dress given to me, and it's a silk dinner gown, and it's going to the museum as well. The Hanson, and General Andrew Jackson Hanson, was the Adjutant General of Georgia during the Civil War, so it's kind of an interesting story that the general's son would marry Sherman's secretaries, and they had a good life together here in Cartersville. So I really love the city, and you come in here, it's a bustling place, but then it's got a great history, so I'm glad to be able to participate. And incidentally, I've told many of my family members about what I was going to do with these things, and they're all very proud to have them be come here to be displayed. So it's a good day for us.
Well, Ed, thank you so much for the visit today and for thinking of the Etowah Valley Historical Society and making the contributions from you and the family. It only enriches our county for the things that you have donated, and we appreciate, on behalf of the Bartow History Museum and the Etowah Valley Historical Society, your contributions, and also the lecture, the wonderful lecture that you gave 2 years ago. Thank you for being with us.
You're so welcome.